Okay, so here's something to think about. Kendrick Perkins says the best leader he ever played with wasn't a superstar. It was Nick Collison.
That's surprising. I wouldn't have guessed that. Let's get into it.
Welcome to DeActa Daily Digest. I'm Joseph.
And I'm Juniper. Here are today's top stories.
So Kendrick Perkins, the former NBA player turned ESPN analyst, recently shared his thoughts on the three teammates who taught him the most about leadership. And honestly, it's a fascinating mix of personalities and styles.
I love these kinds of stories because they show how leadership isn't just one thing. Who are the three players he talked about?
Kevin Garnett, Nick Collison, and LeBron James. Each of them had a completely different approach to leadership, but all three left a lasting impression on Perkins. Let's start with Kevin Garnett. Perkins described him as the emotional engine of the Boston Celtics. Garnett's intensity wasn't just about yelling or hyping people up, it was about focus and preparation.
Garnett always seemed like the kind of guy who could light a fire under his team. What did Perkins say about how Garnett led?
He talked about how Garnett demanded silence and concentration during shoot-arounds and in the locker room. For Garnett, game day focus started long before the game itself. Perkins also highlighted Garnett's adaptability. During the Celtics' 2007-08 championship season, Garnett deferred offensively to Paul Pierce and Ray Allen, choosing to focus on defense and team chemistry instead.
That's such a great example of self-awareness in leadership. He knew what the team needed from him and adjusted his role to fit that. What about Nick Collison? That's a name you don't hear as often in these kinds of conversations.
Exactly, and that's what makes Collison so interesting. Perkins called him the best teammate he ever had. Collison wasn't a superstar, but he was the definition of consistency and selflessness. Whether he played heavy minutes or sat on the bench, his attitude never changed. He held his teammates accountable, but he did it in a way that was supportive rather than confrontational.
That's such an underrated quality. Sometimes the best leaders aren't the ones scoring the most points, but the ones who create an environment where everyone feels valued. Did Perkins share any specific examples of Collison's impact?
He did. Perkins mentioned a playoff game against the Lakers, where Collison praised him for his effort on the court. It meant a lot to Perkins because Collison's standards were so consistent. When someone like that recognizes your hard work, it carries a lot of weight.
That's beautiful. It's a reminder that leadership isn't always about being the loudest or most visible. It's about the small, meaningful moments that build trust and respect. And then there's LeBron James. I'm guessing his leadership style was a bit different?
Definitely. Perkins described LeBron as a leader who led by example. LeBron's meticulous routines and habits set a standard for his teammates. Whether it was training before practice, attending film sessions, or sticking to a strict schedule, LeBron's discipline influenced everyone around him.
That sounds very much like LeBron. He's always been known for his work ethic and attention to detail. Did Perkins share any specific moments that really captured LeBron's leadership?
One that stood out was before Game 7 of the 2018 Eastern Conference Finals against the Celtics. On the flight to Boston, LeBron was completely locked in, headphones on, no joking around. His demeanor set the tone for the entire team. It was like he was saying, "This is serious, and we need to be ready."
That's such a powerful image. It shows how leadership can be as much about presence and demeanor as it is about words or actions. So we've got Garnett's fiery motivation, Collison's steady reliability, and LeBron's disciplined example. It's fascinating how different styles can all be effective in their own way.
Exactly. It's a reminder that leadership isn't one size fits all. It's about understanding what your team needs and adapting to provide that. Speaking of adapting, let's shift gears to something completely different: diplomacy and conflict resolution.
I know where this is going. The ceasefire in Lebanon, right?
Yes, and it's such a complex situation. A ceasefire was reported between Israel and Hezbollah after a night of heavy clashes in southern Lebanon. But the fighting has already delayed U.S.-Iran talks that were supposed to follow a new memorandum of understanding.
That memorandum is a huge deal, isn't it? It's supposed to be a step toward broader negotiations. including issues like Iran's nuclear program and reconstruction plans. What's the current status?
Well, the ceasefire is a fragile one, and both sides are already accusing each other of violations. The US-Iran talks, which were supposed to happen in Switzerland, have been postponed. Iran's foreign ministry says they're waiting for the right conditions to resume negotiations. Meanwhile, regional mediators are meeting in Cairo to discuss the situation.
It's such a delicate balance. On one hand, you've got this memorandum that could pave the way for significant progress. On the other hand, the renewed violence in Lebanon is a stark reminder of how volatile the region remains. What are the key terms of the memorandum?
The agreement calls for an immediate halt to hostilities and a 60-day period of technical negotiations. It also mentions a $300 billion reconstruction plan for Iran, which is supposed to be developed during the next phase of talks. But there's a lot of skepticism on both sides. Iran's supreme leader called the deal an act of desperation by President Trump, while Trump insists there's no cash upfront for Iran.
That skepticism isn't surprising. Decades of mistrust don't disappear overnight. And then there's the Strait of Hormuz. How does that factor into all of this?
Iran has introduced new rules for vessels transiting the strait, including requiring insurance approved by their newly created Persian Gulf Strait Authority. It's part of their strategy to assert control over the waterway during the 60-day negotiation period. Shipping traffic has already increased since the memorandum was signed, but it's clear that tensions remain high.
It's a lot to navigate, literally and figuratively. The ceasefire, the memorandum, the regional dynamics, it's all interconnected. Do you think this agreement has a real chance of holding?
It's hard to say. The memorandum is an important step, but the violence in Lebanon shows how easily things can spiral out of control. The next 60 days will be critical. If the ceasefire holds and talks resume, there's a chance for progress. But if either side deviates, it could all fall apart.
It's a stark reminder of how fragile peace can be. Let's pivot to something a bit more uplifting, sports culture. You mentioned earlier that Atlanta is becoming a hub for the intersection of American football and soccer. What's happening there?
Atlanta is a fascinating case study in how these two sports are borrowing from each other. While they're very different on the surface, there's a lot of crossover happening from youth development programs to broadcasting strategies.
That's interesting. American football and soccer have such different histories and fan bases. How are they influencing each other?
For one, soccer clubs are adopting some of the NFL's commercial strategies, like lucrative sponsorships and media deals. At the same time, the NFL is looking to soccer for ways to expand its global appeal. In Atlanta, you see this convergence in action with shared facilities, cross-training opportunities, and joint youth initiatives.
I love that. It's not just about the professional level, it's about creating opportunities for young athletes and building a more inclusive sports culture. Are there any specific examples of how this is playing out?
Absolutely. Atlanta has hosted international soccer matches and NFL games that aim to attract diverse audiences. Youth programs have been redesigned to expose kids to both sports, giving them more options and clearer pathways to develop their skills.
That's such a smart approach. By blending the strengths of both sports, they're not just growing their fan bases, they're also enriching the community. It's a reminder that sports have the power to bring people together in unique ways.
Exactly. And it's a long-term investment. Building sustained fan engagement and developing homegrown talent takes time, but Atlanta is showing what's possible when you think creatively about the future of sports.
What a great note to end on. From leadership lessons in the NBA to diplomacy in the Middle East to the evolution of sports culture, we've covered so much today. What's your biggest takeaway?
For me, it's the idea that leadership, whether in sports, diplomacy, or community building, is about adaptability and understanding the needs of the moment. What about you?
I'd say it's the reminder that progress, in any field, takes time and collaboration. Whether it's a team coming together, countries negotiating peace, or sports borrowing from each other, it's all about finding common ground and working toward a shared goal.
Well said. Let's keep an eye on all these stories. They're far from over.
Absolutely. Until next time.